In this episode, devoted vegans and committed carnivores face off to share their beliefs, science, and personal experiences behind their very different diets. They will debate health claims, ethics, and environmental impact, challenge stereotypes, and search for any common ground between these two extremes. Get ready for passionate opinions, surprising insights, and a conversation that goes far beyond what's on the plate. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Daff. Welcome to The Bridge. Hello.
Hi, I'm Caroline and I'm a vegan.
Hi, I'm Lydia and I'm vegan.
I'm Lisa and I'm vegan.
I'm Vanessa and I'm vegan.
I'm Angela and I'm a carnivore.
I'm Sabrina, I'm a carnivore.
I'm Charlene and I'm a carnivore.
Welcome. And the first prompt is, my diet is the healthiest for the human body. Okay. Well, anyone can speak. Would you like to elaborate on that?
I feel like the way that I eat is not taxing my body by digesting hard to digest animal products, and I don't have to secrete a lot of nitrogen, which is toxic for the system and hard on the liver and kidneys. It's not clogging my arteries. I feel animal products clog the arteries to the brain, to the heart. It's leading to a lot of the top 12 problems, health problems in the country, diabetes, obesity, all that, and more studies are showing the health benefits of veganism. So I feel like this is the healthiest way to eat and healthiest for the planet.
When it comes to the human body, we have essential functions that the body has to carry out that are fueled by micronutrients. By default, a vegan diet is actually missing very key essential nutrients that the carnivore diet has by default. Things like methylated versions of B12, folate, iron, and even DHA. Those things are very difficult, if not impossible, to get on a vegan diet without supplementing.
You said no. So what would you like to say?
I said no because I don't subscribe to the idea that there's a one-size-fits-all type of diet. I think that there's a lot of evidence that suggests that a whole foods plant-based diet there's a lot of health benefits from that. But that's not the reason why I adhere to a plant-based diet. I adhere to it for ethical reasons, not for health reasons. So that's why I said that.
So what specific physical or mental improvements have you noticed since becoming vegan or becoming a carnivore? What have you noticed within your own body?
I was able to heal chronic pain that I experienced in my upper back and neck. I was able to heal acne that I had on my face, IBS, as well as chronic anxiety within 6 months of being carnivore.
Wow. What about you?
So I had late-stage neurological Lyme disease, and I also suffered from breast cancer. And before all of that, I was plant-based, I was vegan, and I started to get very sick, and I started to have something called mast cell activation syndrome. And the plant toxins were causing me to go into anaphylaxis, and so the only thing I was able to eat was meat. And once I got rid of the foods that I loved so much at the time, they were not loving me back. And meat was the one thing that saved my life. And all of my issues and my symptoms, I got my life back when I went carnivore.
So I have a question for that. So in terms of you were vegan, ethically, how was that for you going from, it depends on the reason why you're originally vegan, but then because for your own health reasons, to then have to start eating animals again. How was that for you ethically?
Honestly, I was so desperate to live. I made sure that all of my food was sourced ethically as possible. Grass-fed, pasture-raised, regeneratively farmed, local farms where I actually got to know the people that were growing and raising my food. Because to me, this wasn't just a diet, this was my medicine. And I was so sick I couldn't even use supplements or medication to heal. So this was my food and my medicine. And so when you're dying and you're desperate, you're going to do whatever it takes. But the one thing was that even the difference, once I started to get my health back, the difference between how I felt when I was vegan versus how I felt when I'm carnivore is night and day. And that to me was the most significant, that I realized that I needed to stay.
Thank you for sharing that. And we will actually talk about the ethics and morality, so we will get into that. But I want to hear on this side the answer to that question.
Well, it's been a long road for me because my family went vegan when I was like 11 years old. So I've been able to get healthier and sick and healthy. But I guess when my family first went vegan, I don't think I noticed initially like that much difference, except for that that like my body didn't stink as much. And then in college, I started eating dairy products because I was eating at the school cafeteria, on my campus, and in North Carolina didn't have a lot of vegan options, and so I started adding dairy and maybe some eggs, and I noticed the stinking problem, but that was also when I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease and lupus. So I think that possibly even eating animal products contributed to that. When I was able to get help from a nutritionist, I was able to kind of reverse that again. So I think that it is very, very possible to heal on a plant-based diet, and and it's not necessarily like going to be like always perfect because our bodies are imperfect. But I think if you're committed ethically to living ethically, you'll find a way to do it without killing or harming or stealing from somebody else.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share on
Yeah,
this?
I do. I grew up, my parents always insisted I have meat, that my brain wouldn't develop properly. And they would always force it, and I didn't want to eat it. And I was constantly sick. I constantly had throat infections, and I missed so much school. I had teachers saying, "Do you not like my class?" And I was like, "No, I'm sick all the time." And when I went to college and I had control over what I ate, that's when I was vegetarian first and then vegan, and I stopped being constantly sick. I was like, probably half the year I was sick before, and when I went vegan, I stopped having that. I had more energy, my joints hurt less. I was always an athlete, I was a dancer, and I'm an aerialist now, and I had a lot more energy, better performance, less joint pain, and I can't even remember the last time I've been sick from a lifetime of being in bed most of the year and always going into the doctor's office. So for me, it gave me my life back.
That's great. In terms of like specific groups, like children and pregnant women, for the vegans specifically, and even athletes, do you think plant-based diets are safe?
Yeah.
No.
Are we
Yeah.
doing the...
No.
That's not a problem. Yes,
No.
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
And to the carnivores, do you think your mental clarity or mood has changed on a meat-only diet?
Absolutely. Yes, that's one of the bonuses. I did not realize that was going to happen. When I first went carnivore, I was a little skeptical about it because we've been taught all of our lives about the food groups, this and that. But as I looked into it more and more, I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And within 3 days of going carnivore, all of my joint pain went away. It was amazing. So I was like, okay, this is, because meat is never inflammatory. So that's pretty amazing. I think one of the good things, if I might add, about both of these diets is if you are cutting out all of the processed food and the junk food, that really does a lot.
Absolutely. I know, well, I just had a baby, and I was talking with a lot of pregnant women during that time, and some were vegan, and I do know that they struggled greatly being vegan and being pregnant. Yes, there were ways around it, but they did have to do a lot more to make sure the baby was getting the correct nutrition. They had to have nutritionists to kind of like aid them with the pregnancy, and some couldn't do it. Some had been vegans for like 15 years, but during that pregnancy, they just couldn't do it. So I do know that this is not, it's not like an easy thing necessarily. Can it be done? Yes, but I do think that there are some things you have to go through.
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 4, so my youngest sibling was 3 when we went vegan, I think, and she actually is like the strongest of all of it. Like she builds muscle so easily. She was like so energetic and like super strong. My the one above her, she's also like really strong, really muscular, really healthy. And my brother actually resisted, so he made my mom buy him Totino's pizza rolls and ramen. And not a good study, I guess, on that. But
how were you ensuring you were getting all the nutrients as a child? Like, yes, you can look muscular and be strong and all of that, but doesn't mean that you're necessarily healthy. And, you know, as a child, it's that foundation for the rest of your life. So sometimes as children, you can go junk food, you can go vegan, you can go carnivore, whatever. But as you get older, you'll see the repercussions of those things that you did as a child that you didn't see in childhood. So how can you ensure that a child is getting everything that they need for later on in life, where, you know, their body would not react? Did your family have any issues in that area at all?
we didn't have any issues. We ate a lot of, there wasn't so much vegan junk food back then. Maybe Oreos was the only thing. So we ate a lot of like salads and like very whole food, plant-based, and we always had raw fruit, and every meal was very like plant forward, lots of veggies, and all of our doctor's appointments, you know, we were always like in the, you know, tallest and best weight, and all the different markers that they look at, and really healthy blood work. So
that's so interesting.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be anecdotal stories of people with their own experiences. Everybody has different body and reacts differently to certain diets, but all the major dietetic associations have come out and said that a plant-based diet is healthy at all stages of life, including infancy all the way to pregnancy. And, if we're talking about children, there's no evidence that suggests that supplementing is inherently unhealthier than getting it from the food source itself. So it's very easy to be healthy on a plant-based diet.
Anyone want to speak to that on this side?
Well, I had 4 children. They're all grown. But I nursed them all. And, that is actually a carnivore diet, if you think about it. So that is one of the healthiest diets you can ever give your child. So that's all I can say.
I'm actually a mom of 3, and my kids follow what I will call an animal-based diet. So they're not just solely on meat, but we do eat a lot of that in our house, of course. But they do also get fruit. My daughter actually really likes sauerkraut, so of course I allow her to have it. And anytime they want to eat something else, I'm not dogmatic about any of it. But to your point about children can thrive on basically anything, it's because they are in a natural catabolic growth state that's fueled by hormones and stem cells. So kids are resilient because we see kids growing up every single day that are fueled by entirely processed foods. Kids that live in food deserts, right? Kids that are technically orphans in other countries that don't have any sort of nutrition at all. So I think it's really hard to say what diet is best for kids because they're gonna thrive in very poor circumstances a lot of the time. And then when you see them into adulthood and you see the possible chronic diseases, the autoimmune disorders, the other things that can affect them based on these chronic lifelong deficiencies that you may not have noticed because they're just in that growth state, that's when we start to see, well, what may be the optimal diet at that point.
Hey everyone.
It's Dr. Dab here. You know, I'm all about products that make your life simpler, smarter, and more elegant. And this one does exactly that. Let me introduce you to Esker Wallet Pro, the next generation wallet that is changing the game for good. Now, I used to have one of those bulky wallets that barely fit into my purse or my pockets, and every time I needed a card, I would be digging around forever. Over time, the leather would crack, the lining would wear out, and I would end up replacing it every year or two. Sound familiar? Well, Exter took all of those everyday frustrations away and built something that fixes them all beautifully. The Exter Wallet Pro is made from premium Italian Vachetta leather. That's high-end, full-grain leather and ages beautifully. And it's paired with a fully recycled aluminum mechanism, so there's no plastic, and it's built to last. It holds up to 14 cards and bills, but stays incredibly slim. And with just one click of the metal ejector trigger, your cards will slide out smoothly. No digging, no fumbling. The design is sleeker than ever, and the flap now closes more securely thanks to an improved internal structure. So it feels solid, luxurious, and totally practical. Plus, every wallet comes with a lifetime warranty. So this might honestly be the last wallet that you ever buy. You can even pair it with the Extra Finder card, which helps you to locate your wallet through your phone if you ever misplace it. I love this because it gives you peace of mind, especially if you're traveling or you just are constantly on the go. And right now, Extra is running their fall sale that runs from September 17th through November 10th, 2025, which will give you up to 35% off. However, my community here will get up to 45% off when you use my code DrDabShow at checkout. So just click the link below in the description box or go to https://partner.exter.com/DrDabShow. Trust me, this is a perfect time to update your everyday carry. Ethics and morality influence my dietary choice more than health. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay, anyone can speak.
I feel that my life isn't more important than the hundreds and hundreds of animals whom I'd be killing if I ate animals or took products from them. And I went vegan because of the ethics first. I'd been a vegetarian for a long time, but when I saw male baby chicks getting ground alive and what they do to dairy cows, I went vegan, and then I started researching and seeing there's no magic nutrients in animals. All the nutrients are coming from plants, and you have to break down digest the animal to get to those nutrients. And like B12 is a microorganism, it's not an animal, and we all need to supplement it because we've sterilized our soil so much that we all risk deficiencies in that. And so I get my blood work done and micronutrients tested regularly, and my doctor says, keep doing exactly what you're doing. I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, which to me meets my ethical need to cause as little harm as possible, and it makes my health thrive. I have great health, and and it's supported by my doctor. So I just feel like if you approach it from an ethical standpoint first, you're going to see later on that it's supporting your health and your mental health. That if I'm eating something that doesn't align with me ethically, that's not going to be good for me in other ways because I'm going to be suffering in some way mentally.
That's true. Do you believe, to all of you ladies, do you believe that eating meat is always immoral, no matter the circumstance?
No, I think for your example, right? Like if you are having severe health issues and that was what you needed to do to, like you said, like you're so desperate to stay alive, that's a choice that you make on your own. I'm very much like, we all have a choice. We all have an ethical choice to make. We all have a health choice to make. I'm not ever going to force someone to be vegan. I also can't force anyone to be vegan. It's a choice that I have made for myself, and I like to lead by example. You can be strong, you can eat all the things, you can be healthy. But if someone wants to eat it, do you?
But what about yourself? Do you feel that tug, like no matter the circumstance, you're going to be vegan? Obviously, she said she wasn't going to do that, but what about you?
I don't think, I've been vegan for 13 years. I don't think I would ever eat meat again.
Even if your health was at risk,
If it was to that severe of a point, I would have to stay alive, right?
Well, you don't have to. It's a
That's
question.
true. That's very true. No, I probably would.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I hope that I'm never in that
I hope
situation.
not either. Anyone else want to share on this side?
I would not, I think for me, I wouldn't ever take something from somebody else that doesn't belong to me. And so I feel like the meat and dairy industry like takes so much from others, and I just like couldn't do that. Like the same as, you know, if somebody was like, oh yeah, you can get rid of your Crohn's disease and your lupus by drinking baby's blood, I would not do it. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like if my body can't survive, then, you know, maybe it's survival of the fittest, and maybe that's my time.
Hopefully nobody here drinks blood. On this side, do you feel any moral conflict when eating animals at all?
No.
No conflict.
They're delicious.
I have a question. Do you think you would ever be able to like hunt, process an
Yes.
animal yourself?
Yes.
Because I think if you say that you're able to do that, power to you. But I think there's a lot of folks that there's a massive disconnect. Because I think that's important, because I think, especially in America, there's a huge disconnect with where food comes from and what a chicken nugget actually is. I think a lot of children don't know that this is a chicken that you saw the other day is this piece of meat.
I can speak to that directly. I actually grew up with my father hunting every single year for deer and moose, and I would get to see the pictures and the videos of him field dressing and processing the meat. And of course, we would have that to sustain us for the year. And in our backyard, we actually had a shed where we raised our own rabbits. I was responsible for feeding them, cleaning them up, and then they would be processed and we would have them.
Same. I'm from Pennsylvania, so hunting in all seasons is it's a big thing for us. We have deer season, bear season. Those are the biggest times of the year for us to hunt. And I would go out with family and friends, and we would hunt. And then I learned how to process the deer, and it makes such a big difference, especially when you're getting a deer that's been on your land and you hunt on your land and you get to eat that deer.
So you think that if you're not able to kill and process an animal, then you should not be eating the animal if you can't do it? Is that like your lens?
Pretty much, because it's like if you don't really know that connection, like it sounds like you guys really like understood this was a living thing, and you're fine with it. Cool, do you? But I think there's a lot of people that would say that they would never be able to do that, but they're still very, very happy to eat this meat. There's a huge disconnect. They forget it was a living thing.
I see. Now, a question for you on that same segue. Do you think that there's a difference, or do you see a difference between killing for survival versus killing for convenience?
There are some areas in the world where populations don't have access to produce, and there are some areas in the world where populations don't have access to livestock. And in those circumstances, in the circumstances where these populations don't have access to produce, I think that is survival, and it's a necessity. We, in our Western society, we have the privilege of choice, so we get to choose. So I think there is a moral distinction between convenience versus survival, absolutely.
Well, also, when you look at like local farms, I think that was one of the things for me, was really understanding where my food came from, and going and meeting the farmers and the ranchers and shaking the hands of the people that are raising my meat has been one of the most incredible parts of my journey. And I partner with a lot of farms. But also getting to see the animals and going into the processing units, I think it's very important to understand the whole process, and to also understand that in order for something to live, something has to die. So we're all here as a part of a circle of life.
Thank you. And for both sides, do you think that the suffering of animals should be weighed equally to human desires?
Yes. I think that we're all living beings sharing this planet. We all matter. And if I eat animal-based diet, I'm killing multiple animals. And so the amount of devastation I'm wreaking on animals is enormous. And I don't feel like we're more important than animals. I think we all matter. We're all connected. And if we can live well and eat well and be healthy without killing, why wouldn't we? And like you said, if I have to kill lots to survive, maybe that's not a sustainable way of living.
So in terms of animals in general, you don't think that some animals were made for us to eat? Like, what would they be doing then? I mean, I'm not saying that you should kill them, but what is the point?
I think that 96% of mammal biomass on this planet is humans and the animals that we have enslaved for meat, and that leaves only 4%. That's wild, and I think that's like absolutely devastating. The amount of land that is used to feed all of these animals is equivalent to the land mass of China and, was it Brazil, something like that, put together. These two huge countries, and that's just excessive. It would be one thing if humans were living indigenously and only like consuming what we needed, but we're just taking up way more than we deserve on the planet. Like, to have only 4% of all of the animals, we're like taking their space just to feed our own animals, and we also aren't feeding people. Like, there's so many starving.
I think you're kind of also getting into a little bit of an existential question as well. What are they here for? I mean, what are we here for? All animals, including humans, have the drive to survive and procreate. So I don't think it's so much a question of what are they here for, so much as do we respect all life?
So do you think that an animal's life is equal to a human's life, in your eyes?
I think that, yes, I do think that animals' lives are equal to humans' lives. I think there's like a gradient of sentience in the animal kingdom. I think humans have a lot more sentience than, let's say, a bug or a plant. But the animals that we do farm do have a lot of a high sentience, and they experience pain and suffering, and those are the things that matter when we're talking about the value of life.
Hi loves, it's me again, Dr. Michelle Daff. We've really been enjoying producing these meaningful conversations for the Dr. Daff Show. However, they are very costly to produce with our large team, equipment, studio, and cast, and everything that goes on behind the scenes. If you've been enjoying these thought-provoking conversations and want to support what we're building here, I would love for you to check out my fragrance brand, Find Forever. Find Forever is more than just a fragrance brand. It is a celebration of faith, purpose, and beauty. We currently have 3 signature scents, each inspired by a unique Bible scripture and has with it its own story and meaning. First, we have 2911, inspired by the scripture Jeremiah 29:11. It's a delicate yet vibrant fragrance that combines lush florals with soft, sweet undertones. It is a celebration of gratitude and the blessings that unfold when we walk in faith. Next is Silent Storm, inspired by Psalm 107, 28, and 29. It's a bold, captivating scent that balances strength and serenity. With warm woods and a touch of spice, it's a reminder to find peace and purpose even in life's storms. And lastly, we have Mustard Seed, inspired by Matthew 17:20. It is a fresh and uplifting fragrance inspired by faith and growth. It opens with a bright citrus and soft florals, symbolizing the beauty of small beginnings and the incredible potential within. Every purchase directly supports this show and helps us to keep bringing you meaningful content. So if you're looking for a signature scent that not only smells amazing, but also carries a message of faith and empowerment, then visit findforever.com and shop now. Your support means the world to me, and I truly believe that these fragrances will bless you as much as they have blessed me. And the next prompt is, animal products are essential for optimal human health. Okay, well, that's kind of obvious. Go ahead and share.
Animal products are the most bioavailable. We can break it down the easiest, and it's the most nutrient-dense food that we can eat. Our bodies are made to eat meat. It's a biological fact.
I will add that kind of what I said earlier, there are certain nutrients that are only found in meat that are essential to the human diet.
Like what?
Choline is one of them, which is essential for brain development. Heme iron, which is mostly better absorbed coming from meat. Folate, and then the active form of B12. To your point, yes, people can get it, but there is a large percentage of the population, I don't know the exact number, that has a defect in something called the MTHFR gene. This actually makes them unable to convert the inactive form of B12 to the active form, which is what actually fuels your energy production and detox pathways in the body. So a lot of times people can actually get a buildup of something called homocysteine, which is actually a molecule that can cause cardiovascular disease. And so somebody can actually heal their cardiovascular disease by going carnivore and getting those bioavailable nutrients in their diet.
So you don't, like, carnivores don't, like, take B12 supplements, is that what you're saying?
They usually don't have to. Now, I will caveat that with the people who do have that genetic defect, sometimes we do still have to supplement them even on a carnivore diet because they naturally will run deficient. And I do a lot of this in my practice.
Thank you. Anyone on this side want to share?
I just have a question. So on a carnivore diet, do you have to supplement with like vitamin C or vitamin K or fiber, any of the nutrients that are lacking in animal foods?
The answer to that is maybe, because everybody's different, right? We don't exist in vacuums. Our systems are not completely stable at every point in time. We have outside factors. So something like even a person's stress level can influence how much vitamin C their body's running through. So somebody could be doing a carnivore diet and they could still be getting adequate amounts of vitamin C on paper. But if they're in a high stress state, they could be running through it more and may need to supplement.
I would say, again, there's no magic nutrients in animals, and I once, when I was early on in my adult life, I had an iron deficiency, and the doctor said, I was living in France, and they're like, you have to eat meat. And I did some research and found that using lemon on iron on beans would increase the absorption, and I did that, and I came back, my levels were perfect, and the doctor said, oh, you ate meat? Nope. Had beans and lemon. And fruits and vegetables have all the minerals and vitamins that we need. I believe that we're from the tropics originally, we're frugivores, and that's where all the nutrients and the fiber come from. Most people are deficient in fiber and vitamin C and all those other things. Pretty much nobody's deficient in protein if they're not starving to death. So I feel like a plant-based, whole food plant-based, lots of different colors and variety of produce will give you a very healthy, balanced diet, much more than eating animals.
But do you have to eat a lot more of whatever you're eating? Like in terms, let's say protein, you are eating like what kind of things do you eat for protein? Like chickpeas and
Tofu, chickpeas,
okay.
flaxseed, hemp.
But do you have to eat so much of it in order to get?
No, people get way too much protein. It's a myth that we need the amounts of protein that we need. I'm a professional athlete. I'm not eating hundreds of, grams of protein because our body can only absorb a certain amount at each sitting anyway. And fruits and vegetables have protein in them. In fact, kale, ounce per ounce, has more protein than steak. And we don't need protein, we need amino acids. Mm-hmm. So that's what is in plants.
Also, like one block of tofu is the equivalent calorically and protein to about a half a dozen eggs. And so, you can easily eat, well, I can't eat a whole brick, but you could eat like a half a brick. Okay, maybe. Good.
Do you think on this side, ladies, that some people are genetically better suited for carnivore diets than others?
Yes. I can definitely speak to the genetic predisposition in certain people to whether they may be suited to a carnivore diet or not. This is actually something that I tested in my patients in my practice. It's something that I've tested on myself. And I do happen to be very well suited personally to a carnivore diet based on my genes that metabolize carbohydrates, how much I require in protein, and how I do with saturated fats. So it works really, really well for me. And it doesn't work well for everybody. There actually are genes that predispose people to developing plaques and cardiovascular disease with high saturated fat, and we see this in the literature, we see this in real life. But for the people that are on the fence and they haven't tried kind of one way or another, I think looking at somebody's genes is going to tell them what they may be best suited to if they'd be willing to experiment.
I have a question. I wonder if, like, how long has anyone sustained a carnivore diet? Like, are there any long-term studies on it?
I'm coming up on 4 years.
I'm coming up on 5, and we have a lot of people in our community that have been doing it for over 20.
How much meat exactly, or like, can you explain sort of like the typical lifestyle of someone who considers himself a carnivore versus just a typical person who eats whatever?
I was very strict when I first went carnivore, and it was out of necessity as well. I was sick too. Now I would say I'm a little bit more flexible, so I will include some non-carnivore items that keep me in ketosis. So I'll have avocado, I'll have olives, but on a daily basis, I'll usually eat a ribeye and maybe half a pound of ground beef, a couple eggs thrown in there, and that's enough.
So I'm about the same. I eat about 1.5 pounds of meat a day, and it just varies between ground meat, and I stick with bison, beef, lamb, and goat, veal, venison when I can hunt it. But I also eat nose to tail. So I believe that we should honor the whole animal. So I do include the organ meat. So I eat a combination of a little bit of organs, a little bit of fat, and a little bit of muscle meat per meal.
What do you mean by honor the animal?
So by honoring the animals, that I'm not just consuming the muscle meat. I'm consuming the entire animal.
What's interesting too, in terms of like longevity, the question about longevity, I know you mentioned some folks have been doing it for like 2 decades. Veganism has been in so many cultures for centuries. And so the carnivore diet is interesting because it seems fairly new in the sense of like the past few decades. So I'm kind of like, why, where, whereas veganism across, like I said, many, many cultures, many, many centuries, it's been a thing, you know?
Well, I mean, but we also, if you look at our ancestors, before agriculture was even a thing, we had cavemen that were hunters, and they were thriving off of just eating meat.
Well, foragers came before that. We had to create tools to hunt. We couldn't just grab a cow or whatever they had back then and chomp into it. We had to create tools and fire. So that is not natural because we had to create something in order to capture or kill the animal and then cook him. And so we were foragers initially, and that's what we were thriving on. That's what's more, to me, that makes sense, that's natural. That's what we came from, and that's what a lot of cultures still do, that live off the land, and they live in very, very genuine ways with the planet, and they're not hunting animals, they're not killing, they're living in harmony, I would say, with their environment.
Mm-hmm. And how many of you ladies are athletes? Oh, all of you. Okay, so do you think that long-term vegan athletes or bodybuilders prove that meat isn't necessary? Okay.
Watch the Game Changers. That shows top athletes. Patrick Baboumian, strongest man in the world, won lots of records, longtime vegan, ultra marathoners.
Nimai Delgado.
Right. Top football players, a lot of wrestlers, the Ironman, Scott Jurek, the ultra marathoner.
A lot of athletes have complemented changing to a plant-based diet to their success. Serena Williams.
Yeah.
And I've been, personally, I've been vegan for 13 years plus. I like to think that I deadlift heavy, squat heavy, bench heavy. I'm pretty strong, and that's been without any animal products.
So all in all, would you say that optimal health is the same for everyone, or does it just depend on the individual in terms of how you eat and being in the most optimal health?
I think it's individual.
I do too.
I think our system, everyone has a different configuration for sure, but our systems are geared for eating plants. We don't have the teeth. Even if you look at a silverback gorilla who's a vegan, their teeth are really massive. We do not have the teeth to bite into flesh. We don't have the digestive enzymes. The length of our digestive tract is one of a plant eater, not like a cat that has a very short one. That's why we have so many digestive issues and stomach cancers and things, because our systems are not geared to digesting animal products. So somebody could have different health issues, but if our basic anatomy is not suited for that, then I would say that doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think there's a consensus in science of what the optimal diet is for humans. But I do think that there's a lot of evidence that suggests that a plant-based diet can be healthy for a lot of humans. Not for everyone, but for a lot. So I think the question is more, if you can be healthy on a plant-based diet, why wouldn't you opt for the more ethical diet?
So yeah, it does sound from what you ladies are saying that it is so individual, because these ladies are saying, oh, my acne cleared up, I was healed from all these different things. So for them, optimally, this is the best diet. But in your cases, and even I'm not a vegan, but I did for a time, I'm a Christian, I did something called a Daniel fast, where you just eat like fruits and vegetables for about 3 weeks, and I felt and looked the best ever. Like I really did. I did not care to have meat again, but every now and then you want that. So I think it does depend on the person, but if it can heal you, then that is optimally like your best decision.
I think we know still so little about nutrition that I would say that, obviously if you're dying, you make the decision that you need to make. But I think we know so little still about nutrition, and so many of the studies are funded by animal agriculture or pharmaceutical industry or these big megalithic things that maybe we just don't know yet how to cure certain things using plants because it's so new.
The next prompt is, veganism is impractical or unsustainable for most people. Okay, anyone can share.
Well, veganism can last for quite a long time in a lot of people, but sometimes it will catch up with you. So just think about, maybe you will need meat in the future. It's very good for people to be able to reproduce. Having a meat diet, it's very healthy, and a lot of people have been infertile eating meat. They have become fertile. It's like something in the body is saying you need this. So maybe right now you're fine. We don't know what the future will hold.
Yeah, I would like to add to that, because during my wellness journey and being sick, I lost my cycle. And one of the ways that I got my cycle back was increasing my animal fats, which was actually quite difficult because I was not used to eating that amount of fat. And I used beef fat and lamb fat to get myself into a higher state of ketosis so that I could get my cycle back, and I finally did.
Yeah, I've done some work. I go to Egypt a lot, where I work with people in farming in rural communities and talk about veganism, and a lot of them are naturally vegan because they can't afford to have animal products. And I'm meeting these people who are really strong and healthy and still working way, way, way into their 80s, 90s, and beyond. And they've lived on rice, beans, and the plants that they grow. So I've seen thriving, strong, active people. I've been in India where I met a guy who was 110 who was eating bananas. Like, not that I advocate that, but that's all he was eating. Yeah, at that point he was just eating bananas, and he's 110. So obviously it's anecdotal, but I've just met a lot of really older people in cultures where they're eating kind of from the land and what they're growing, and that they don't have the resources for the animal products. So
I think when folks say veganism is inaccessible is when we're thinking very much through a Western lens of like a veganized lasagna or whereas those anecdotes, those truths are more, rice and beans is way more accessible globally than meat. It's cheaper. So it's way more accessible to the masses. I think when people say, well, vegan food is expensive, it's because we're thinking of like the places in LA that,
But also thinking about fruits and vegetables, which can be expensive. And, depending on if you want it organic and exactly. LA is expensive.
Exactly.
But I think that costs can play a role. Do you ladies think it's the culture, it's health, it's cost?
I think this is a really amazingly privileged conversation that we get to have. Truly, like from my heart, that we have all had really incredible, unique life experiences that have got us to this point where we're so convicted that what we're doing is the right thing, at least for us. I think that there are parts of the world where certain diets are more accessible, like Inuits, for example, they are going to have more access to an animal-based or carnivorous diet, whereas some places they will eat more plants. When I think that when we're talking about just us in this Western society in North America, the fact that we can just have this conversation, it's beautiful. And I think that what we really, agree on is that eating food that's natural to our planet in general is the solution over the processed foods. I think we're ultimately on the same side on a lot of that, is that none of us actually believe that the food that comes from the plants could be better than actual plants. And I would agree with that. Like if I had a patient in front of me and the only thing that they did was gave up processed foods and they went more plant-based, I'd actually be okay with that.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with you on that. I guess my issue is that, like you were saying earlier, we take so much land to graze animals, and it's taking such a toll on the environment, the dead zones from the animal waste, the methane emissions from the animals, the droughts that are caused because we're using so much water on this land, and all these grains that we're using to feed animals. We have a lot of starving children that we're not feeding that could be fed if we grew plants. We'd have enough food for everyone. There's no reason for hunger on this planet. We can solve that problem right now. We plant legumes, fruits, vegetables, we'll feed everybody. We can't sustain it on animal-based diets. There's not enough food for everyone, and there's not enough land to where everyone is going to be able to eat by doing that.
That's interesting. Anyone want to say anything?
I do think that veganism tends to feel really inconvenient to a lot of people because you go to like family functions, birthday parties, things with friends, and it's like barbecues, cookouts, and a lot of, you have to really think about it. And I think that probably in the carnivore diet, you probably have run into the same issues. So I really understand a lot of people have to resort to like fast food and stuff like that because they don't know how to cook and they don't know how to access those things. So
how do you deal with that when you're, let's say, traveling? How does that affect you?
I travel a lot, and I've gone into very, very remote villages, and there isn't, I'm not going to a vegan restaurant or going and getting Miyoko's cheese. I'm just getting the products that they have there, and everywhere I've been, no matter what, I found produce. So I go to local farmers markets and I get fruits and vegetables, and I find a way. I've never had any issue anywhere finding food if I don't think of it as going to restaurants. Like, how do you do it? Get some apples, get some, whatever it is in that area.
What about like in terms of your social relationships? I know sometimes when you have friends or family members who are vegan, for me, sometimes it can get a little annoying if they're very insistent on like, please don't serve this, or we have to eat at this kind of a restaurant, or every time, why can't we go to a vegan place? Like, it comes up and it can sometimes kind of almost take over their life in some ways. And then it affects how they're able to spend time with people because they feel like they're not being honored. So how does that play into your life?
I feel like it doesn't affect my life at all. All of my friends and family eat meat. I'm able to eat at the same restaurants that they are, able to partake in the same activities that they are. It's really like a non-issue in my life.
I have a great group of vegan friends, so we will go to vegan-only restaurants. I also have great friends who are omnivores and enjoy eating vegan food too. I think in the example that you gave, where it feels like your vegan friend has to be honored all the time, but I also think if you're friends with them, you should care about each other. So my
They feel like they need to be of course
all
I
the
do,
time.
but they feel
Sure.
like they need to be honored every time.
Gotcha. I mean, I think it's like, especially in North America, like you're gonna have to we look at menus beforehand. That's just like a thing that we do to be prepared, but also for our omnivore friends to I have great friends that will look up a menu and be like, before choosing a restaurant, will be like, there is at least one vegan option, and there normally is at least one. Yeah, a salad and fries is vegan.
I'm involved in a lot of activism with Vanessa, and I think when we have a lot of friends who have kind of made a vow not to sit down at tables where meat is being served, and it's just part of their ethical stance, and I think that if I were hanging out with a carnivore, we probably wouldn't eat together, or if I felt comfortable, maybe we would go to a restaurant that handled both. But it is really hard to when you've looked a pig in the eyes before it goes to slaughter, and we've been to many pig vigils. It's they look so human, and they haven't experienced love, and it's their when you touch them, some of them, they don't even know how to react because nobody has ever shown them love. No human has touched them in a loving way. And so I think maybe your friend could be coming from that stance. So if you are able to eat vegetables, and if you're able to enjoy a vegan restaurant, maybe you could understand that for her it's painful to go and see a dead animal.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So you're saying that you wouldn't be able to eat with, if you had a friend who was a carnivore, you wouldn't be able to eat with them. Is that what you're saying?
For me personally, I have, and sometimes I don't feel like I can. But it depends on the situation. If it's a wedding or something like that, I can try to just not think about it, but I don't. It's not a pleasant experience, so I wouldn't choose that. I would hang out with a carnivore, doing something else, probably.
Going for a hike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go watch a movie.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is painful. It is painful, and my friends, I'm fortunate that I have a lot of vegan friends, and my non-vegan friends always say, let's go to a vegan restaurant. Otherwise, certainly going for a hike is fine, because it is painful for me. In Egypt, I'm working on veganizing a hotel there, and I'm dealing with all kinds of people who are not vegan and not super supportive of it. And I'll eat with them there because that's the context, but I let them know how it feels, and they respect that. And I don't force it on them, I don't guilt them about it, but I'm being authentic, and they're receiving it.
Mm-hmm. And different people are vegan for different reasons. So some people are not vegan because they care about an animal. They just like how their body looks.
Right.
So it is different for everyone, but it is nice to hear. Is there something you would like to say to what they shared?
Well, I wish I had a carnivore restaurant I could go to. That would be amazing, where they don't use seed oils, to cook meat. So, but I think we're making progress. But yes, there's a lot of vegan restaurants, a lot of places you can go that cater to that. But for me and other carnivores, I know it's not that easy. So we just have to, we don't force our way on anyone, but we're trying to get people to realize seed oils are not the best thing to cook food. And I think that we're coming around to that. But yes, I don't believe that animals are just on an even kill with people. That is, no, I don't believe that. I'm a Christian, so the Bible does not say that anywhere. And so I go with what God says.
Ultimately, I think you brought up a good point about not villainizing. Like you said, I would go on a hike with my carnivore friends. And I think veganism is inclusive in the sense that most people can eat. I know that you guys pretty much just eat meat and not necessarily lots of fruit and vegetables and stuff. But I think that's important that I know, I'm not sure about you guys if you would even sit at a table with a vegan, right? Because that question was asked to us. But to your point of, oh, my vegan friend is annoying. Not that you said directly that it was annoying, but it can get, because you have to constantly think about her.
Not necessarily that. It can be annoying if the person is
Centering themselves.
Right, or is trying to control the event.
Sure.
Based only on their needs.
Totally.
All the time.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
like give and take. Okay.
Yeah.
This time can we eat at a restaurant that has different options and not only, we're in LA, a vegan restaurant, or this Thanksgiving, it's okay if there is some meat. It does not have to only be vegan food because I am a vegan. So it's more them also being understanding of the other side.
Yeah. There are definitely
that's what I'm
vegans on the scale.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I will say I love your heart for the animals, and I will say that most of the people that come to Carnivore don't do it for any ethical reasons. They do it because they're sick, and that was their only hope. Like, both of us had that situation. Previously, I'm trained as a naturopathic doctor. We're basically raised in a cabbage patch. Everything is plants. I aimed for 10 different plants every single day, and it made me sick. So I love that you guys have the option to come to veganism because of ethics, because of how you like the food. But for us on the other side, we came to Carnivore because it was our last resort.
I would consider changing my diet if compelling evidence proved the other side was healthier. What about you? Okay, so you wouldn't change regardless.
I've had both
Well, I was
experiences.
gonna say, I've had both experiences. I came from a plant-based diet, and it wasn't the healthiest for me.
Okay.
I was really sick my whole childhood eating.
So what type of evidence would convince you that an animal product is necessary?
It would take a lot. Like, even the idea, like the thought of, there was a situation where it was a pita bread with salad on top. It should have had a vegan patty in it. Instead, it had chicken breast. I bit into it. The physical thing of my teeth going through, like, it made me feel nauseous. Yeah. Like, the thought of even doing it, I just could not. Like, it made me feel, I didn't think I would have that reaction. Because I'm from Hong Kong, like, I've eaten lots of different animals. And I did not think that I would have that physical reaction.
I've had my personal experience on a plant-based diet has been, I used to have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, hormonal issues. I went plant-based, not for health reasons, but I just have an amazing amount of energy, running marathons, like my hormonal issues went away. And I'm not claiming that the carnivore diet is not healthier than a plant-based diet. But if there were compelling evidence to come out that it is, which currently, as it stands right now, there's not there aren't long-term studies on a carnivore diet. It's all anecdotal and self-reported studies. But even if there were evidence that said that that suggested that it were more healthy, I still wouldn't do it because, again, I do this for ethical reasons.
Yeah, there's the psychological and emotional aspects, and for me, I can't conceive of how that could be healthier, but emotionally and psychically it wouldn't be. I would feel in pain that there's a living being who wanted to live and wanted to be with his or her family and to receive love and kindness, that I'm depriving of that life. That would cause me so much pain that there is no study that could convince me that that's okay.
And for you ladies, what kind of proof would make you give up meat completely, if any?
None.
What about you?
Well, I've really been looking into this. I've only been carnivore for about a year. And from what I can find, talking to many doctors, I know a doctor personally who has been getting her patients to go on carnivore diet for 45 years. So she has the oldest lived patients of any doctor in the United States. And they are very cognitive, well, and they are very strong. And so, I can't argue with that. I mean, there's no studies per se, because you would have to study a person for a long time. I think there have been some old studies with the Inuit Eskimos, and they all were carnivore, and they had an excellent health. So that's all I could say about that.
To my ladies on this side, do you think that your ethical stance would prevent you from changing even if your health required it? Yeah. Well, I know for you it would, because you feel very strongly about that piece, the emotional piece. What about you?
If my health required me to eat meat,
Right.
I know, same. I just don't think it would.
Because you said that you chose this lifestyle due to the ethical piece. So that's why I'm asking. Do you? It is tough.
I can't imagine it. I don't know how to answer that question.
I feel like there would be other ways to supplement.
Yeah.
There would be other options beyond meat.
Also potentially lab-grown meat.
Yeah, that's the thing. But like in this very hypothetical situation where there was no other option, I don't know. I don't think I could do it. Yeah.
I would also, just add that we don't need food, we need nutrients. If we can get the nutrients we need, there's always a way to get that, and it doesn't have to be from an animal. So we can get those nutrients in other ways. If our health needed, what is it that our health needs? Find out what those nutrients are and get them in some other way.
Are there any risks to that, though? Are those things like mixed, or will there be any side effects to doing that?
I mean, eating animals, they're eating GMO products that are super unhealthy already. So, I mean, I can't imagine it would be worse than that, because if we can get them from plants that are grown and not with pesticides or too many heavy metals. We have a toxic society. There's toxins everywhere, so it's hard to say.
Okay, and for everyone, is health more important than ethics, or should ethics come first?
Health for sure.
You would say health. Health is more important than ethics. And what about you ladies?
Ethics. I already have healed my body from 2 autoimmune illnesses with plants, but and that health is very important to me, and I do pay attention to it. But yeah, ethics are it's the most important thing.
Living with myself and feeling comfortable with how I approach the world and other beings is the most important. But that, to me, is mental health. So I can't separate them. I say they're intertwined.
I would say mind, body, soul, to their point. I think just on a spiritual level, I don't think physically I would be healthy if mentally I'm not healthy. Mm-hmm. So I do think ethics are more important.
Yeah, both. And also, if the 2 options, why would you want to cause harm? If you can, the goal is always to minimize harm.
I think that maybe some person would not see it as causing harm, and I think that'd probably be the difference in perspective.
100%.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are unaware of what happens in factory farms, though. A lot of people, say they know, but have you ever seen a video of, this is maybe inappropriate, but artificially inseminating a cow where they stick their fist inside the cow all the way to hold her cervix through her rectum, and then insert the, semen, which they had to also, steal from a cow, sexually violating 2 animals to reproduce, as, a feminist, and I just it's horrible to think. It's slavery. We steal the calf and we steal the milk.
Yeah. And then we're breastfeeding off another species, which to me can't be healthy in any way.
You use the word steal. Can you explain why you're using that word specifically?
No consent given. They want to keep their baby. They don't want you to, I mean, there are videos of cows chasing the farmer who's taken their baby. This is, they cry, they have literal tears. The baby is crying for the mother. There is no consent there. There is no possible way that that cow or the baby is saying this is okay. This is agony for them. This is breaking a mother's heart.
And like, I find it interesting that, you know, they made laws against bestiality, and they had to make exceptions for in animal agriculture because it is, you know, maybe it's not enjoyable. However, I've seen the videos of the farmers joking about raping the cows. And so, yeah, it's just, it's theft in its slavery, modern day slavery.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
I would say I definitely agree that there's a lot of horrific acts happening in the animal agriculture industry, but the people that you're up against, if you will, in that argument are not your carnivores that are eating regeneratively. It's the big companies that are sourcing these things for the McDonald's, the KFCs, these other companies. So while I can totally appreciate that, there is the other option, which is proper regenerative agriculture from farmers that do take care of their animals appropriately, and then you can actually source from a place that you feel good about.
There's not enough land on the planet, though, for everyone to eat that way. So we mass produce because that's how we feed a lot of people. It's a very small select group that can have the regenerative. That's the first thing. The second thing, if I were a cow who's been cared for and, you know, humanely raised and grass-fed, and then the farmer comes and I know what's happening because they know, they can smell, they hear, it's the ultimate betrayal. I thought that I was cared for. I thought I was a member of the family, and now you're taking me away and killing me. What did I do? That's the ultimate betrayal, like to end your life that way. And animals in captivity or who have been killed are releasing stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, into their systems. They're in the tissue. So when you're eating them, you're taking in those hormones. Doesn't matter if it's humanely raised or not. That's a supreme stress on the animal, and we're taking that in.
Yeah, and to that point, majority of animals raised on these regenerative farms are sent to a slaughterhouse. They all go to the same place, and those are horrific.
Something I've reflected on just personally in prayer meditation is, do I have consciousness after death? Does anything have consciousness after death? Is that cow sitting there reflecting like on its death? I would argue no. The action is going to happen. That cow is going to be dead regardless. If it's going to nourish a human being who's going to go on to do things in the world, raise children, be a loving partner to somebody, then I personally think it's a worthy death.
Despite our differences, I believe both diets can coexist peacefully in society. Okay. So since you said no, you can share first.
I mean, I guess like on the scale that it is right now, sure. But as Vanessa said, we can't, there's no way to feed the whole planet that way. So it's definitely a very privileged way to eat. And I think maybe some people who absolutely can't eat other things could be carnivore, but I think that like saying that more people should go carnivore is probably not the best.
To the vegans, do you truly feel comfortable with others eating meat, or do you just tolerate it?
I am not comfortable with it at all. I don't judge them as a person. I judge the brainwashing in our systems that tell us that we have to take lives and that we can dominate and steal from other beings because we can and we're stronger. I truly believe, and it comes from the animal save movement, where Lisa and I have both done pig feeding and watering pigs before slaughter, where they say the Tolstoy quote, which is, as long as there are slaughterhouses, there will be battlefields. I truly believe that the violence in us is being increased through consumption of animals, and that as long as we keep doing that and have that mentality that we can take and steal and dominate, that we're going to keep having wars.
You have a very spiritual approach to it as well. Anyone else want to share about how you feel? Do you feel comfortable with others eating meat, or do you just tolerate it?
Also, I've never really asked myself that question, but ultimately it's a choice, right? If you want to eat just meat and butter, fine. Like, that's a choice that you've made as an individual, and you're allowed to make that choice. I just personally won't do that.
But do you feel comfortable? That's the question. Do you feel comfortable with others eating meat, or do you just tolerate it? That's the question.
Probably just tolerate it. And also, there's friendships and relationships I value in my life that I'm very much a lead by example type of person. I'm going to show my happy, healthy, strong life, and folks keep the door open for folks to ask questions, to try vegan things, and ultimately it leads them to eating more plant-based because I'm opening the door for them. So I would say that I'm not like so comfortable that I seek it, but I value my relationships more so.
Okay, ladies on this side, do you believe that vegans should stop trying to convince others to give up meat?
No, I honestly don't think that I should dictate the actions of another person. My goal is to help the people that want my help, and they come to me, and then I do what I do. I share my story in hopes that if somebody else is struggling the way that I was, and they may have tried other options, that they at least consider an alternative viewpoint for their health. Like, as a physician, that is my highest purpose, is to restore health in people.
What would you say?
So I'm a holistic health practitioner, and I do a lot of mind, body, spirit work. And so I do work with a lot of people that are in the plant-based vegan community, and that was part of my journey, right? It was because I was in that same space. And I have seen a lot of vegan clients that come to me that are also dealing with a lot of health issues. So while I'm not here to spread the word that everybody needs to change the way that they eat, I think that it's definitely something that I do share. Like, I share my story, I share my perspective, but I do encourage a lot of people, especially in the health and wellness space, to try consuming more animal products. At least you don't have to go 100% carnivore, but to incorporate more animals in their diet.
I don't know if you've ever seen this on the freeway. I don't know. It was a billboard I saw once, and it said, like, have you ever been hurt by a vegan?
Yes.
Have you seen that?
That was a vegan company that put that out as a spoof.
Okay, I was like, I didn't know
Yeah.
what that meant.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
yeah.
leads to like an animal rights thing when you call it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in terms of activism, do you think that vegan activism can sometimes go too far in pushing for social change?
No, because I think that we're up against these megalithic, enormous corporations that are so huge and so powerful that our neural pathways are inundated by messages of normalized violence. And that is so huge. We are this teeny, teeny force that we need to do big, dramatic things because we're combating millions of messages one way. So our pathways are formed that way. So to have any impact, we have to do big, dramatic things. And we're trying to save lives. I think, like, during war, when you're trying to save lives, nobody says, oh, that's too extreme. That's what it is for us. Our friends, our connection, our brothers and sisters, trillions of animals, including sea life, are killed every year. To me, we've got to do everything we can to stop that. I don't believe in killing somebody for that, because then I become the same force that I'm fighting against. But I do believe in taking action. I've been arrested for animal activism. I do believe in chaining yourself to a slaughterhouse. I believe in doing extreme dramatic actions of non-harm that are gonna get attention so that we can liberate animals.
I think there's a need for activists like yourselves to do that, 100%. But then we're still a minority, right? A lot of other folks then start being like, oh, well, the pushy vegan, I'm not going to do it because they're vegan or because it says vegan. An MIT study just came out that said that folks will choose a vegan option when they know it's not vegan. A majority of folks, if they're just looking at the ingredients, chose that meal over another meal, but when it said vegan in front of it, exactly the same thing, they didn't choose it.
They assumed it wouldn't taste good.
Correct. Or they see vegan and they turn their nose up at it, right? And that's a big thing. So there's definitely need for the activists 100% to communicate that message like you just said. However, I personally like to leave the door open for conversations like this to happen. And so people can come to me and ask more questions about it instead of feeling like, I mean, I'm sure you don't, like you said, you don't judge people necessarily, but they assume that we will judge them. They assume that the activists will be very look down on them and criticize them for their choice, when that's not the case. But that's definitely the stereotype, right? That there's pushy vegans out there.
Well, I'm someone who personally, if I didn't have to eat meat again, I wouldn't care, because I'm not someone who cares about meat. If it tastes good, it's fine. I could just eat veggies for the rest of my life. I would be fine. But I have, in my personal life, had a lot of encounters with people who are vegan where when they talk about other food, they're just so disgusted and they vocalize it and oh, that's so nasty and you should try vegan this and vegan that. I'm like, okay, sure, if it's good, I don't care. But I have seen that pushy narrative in my life personally, and I always wondered why there was such a need to be so pushy about it. And they're not people who were interested in the animal rights aspect of it. It was just that vegan lifestyle.
But they might do that with a lot of different things. I know I've done self-help workshops, and then everyone's a zealot and is trying to convert everyone, and they can be really annoying. And I've even done that, I did this thing, and you know. So I think there's some of that zealotry, but I think there is no right or effective way to convey the vegan message, because if there were, we'd all be doing it, and then we'd have a different kind of world. But to your point, I think that's something else going on, and it's just they're latching on the vegan thing. And I have vegan friends who are annoying about it, to where I'm like, stop with the vegan police. Oh my God, it's enough. I think it's an interpersonal thing, but I also have this theory that people are so sensitized because we're constantly traumatized by seeing images of violence and whatever, that we get kind of hostile and angry sometimes. And I've noticed that in people just because there's so much trauma and they don't know how to deal with it, because I don't think we have good interpersonal skills in general in society. So I think that can lead to that sort of annoying behavior.
We honestly might even get criticism for being so open of yeah, we would sit at a table with a meat eater or something. I've had online people criticize me for being well, if you're not vegan, that's okay. If you've just cut out dairy or you're reducing your meat intake, that still all contributes to less animals being killed, and it contributes to the environment. But I've had other vegans criticize me.
How interesting.
Yeah.
We do have a little bit of a problem with that. Yeah. A little bit vegan police too much, maybe. So maybe that's what you're talking about when you asked that question, I think.
For you ladies, do you ever feel defensive about your diet because of how vocal some vegans can be?
I'll say two things that I generally know about people. Nobody likes being told what to do, and nobody likes being told they're wrong. And that goes on both sides, no matter where you're at. I would imagine that none of you went vegan because an activist was in your face forcing you to change your mind. Same thing on the carnivore side. We have carnivore police too.
Yeah, I call them carnivore cops.
I've had the carnivore police called on my avocados, okay? And again, I don't think the dogma necessarily has a place, but I don't also feel the need to defend my position to anybody, because I know in my soul that it works for me, and I matter most to me, not somebody else's opinion.
Thanks for sharing. Would you like to share?
Well, yes, I think that people have their own opinions. When they hear something different, they usually want to take a step back, what? This is not what I was taught. You're rocking my world, things like that. But I think it's good to share opinions respectfully and okay, well, this is something that might work for you. This is what happened to me. And I believe that if we really knew how the body works, we might really change our minds.
So ladies, thank you for being here. This was such an interesting and enlightening conversation. I appreciate your honesty and just sharing your experiences. I would like for us to just kind of go around and share if there's anything that you learned today, anything that was interesting, anything that you really wanted to say. I would love to hear it. And you can go ahead and start. We can just kind of go around.
I would say that I think we can all agree that at times our lifestyle has been called extreme. And I think that from our perspective, it doesn't seem extreme. You know, I'm sure it doesn't feel extreme to you to do what feels healthiest to you. And it doesn't seem extreme for me to live a lifestyle that aligns with my ethical decisions. I think we can all unite on that point, for sure.
I think what's interesting is we've spoken a lot on this side about the ethics of it, whereas your side is more on the health side of it. Because the question was asked to us if there was science that showed that eating meat would make us healthier. Would that be the case? But the same question wasn't asked to the other side.
So the question was, I would consider changing my diet if compelling evidence proved the other side was healthier. So it was to both sides.
Sure. So then, in that case, I know that you two both were kind of like more plant-based. What's interesting is, I think a lot of people go plant-based and they're like, immediately, not for me, or they do it for a little bit and it's not for me, because they are missing certain nutrients because they don't know which plants to eat to really fulfill all of those nutrients. It's definitely doable. We're all examples of that. But ultimately, it's an individual decision. We all make an ethical decision. And you all know what goes, like an animal has to die, and you're okay with that, and that's your choice, and that's fine. Like, for me personally, we just don't make that choice.
I guess my family went vegan, you know, over 33 years ago, and I think it's the healthiest way to be. And I would say it was plant-based in the beginning because we didn't know about everything. But for at least 15 years or so, I've been like ethically vegan. I've known about all of that, and I just don't think that I could ever go back. And I also wanted to say, like, vegan and carnivore are like totally different because veganism isn't about health. Like, the philosophy exists solely as an animal rights movement. So when you say like somebody's vegan not for the animals, it's not actually accurate. They're plant-based, but because veganism is a lifestyle that seeks to exclude animals in all areas of our lives, cosmetics, clothing, food, obviously, and anywhere else as far as possible and practicable, as defined by the Vegan Society, where the term was coined.
Yeah. I think of a quote that a prominent vegan chef once said at a presentation where she said, "You can't sustain life with death." And that really resonates with me on a deep level, because I would say my basic philosophy, religion, all of that is to be as loving and be as of service on this planet to every living being as I can. And for me, veganism is the perfect way for that, because it really involves loving every creature and not saying, I matter at your expense, that I matter, you don't, that we all want life. That's the nature of life, that we all want to continue our lives. And so for me to be a truly loving person on this planet, I want to love all beings and not harm anyone in as much as I can.
Thank you.
So there's a quote that I've been living by for the last several years, and it's by Hippocrates, and he says that in order for us to become well, we have to be willing to remove the things that are making us sick. And, you know, at the end of the day, all of us here had to make a choice to remove the things that were making us sick. For you, it was meat. For me, for you it was meat. For me, it was plants. And so I'm grateful that we could all come together and share our perspectives, because at the end of the day, we all, like you just said, like we all just want to live and be happy and healthy and thrive. And for me personally, having a diet that people say is so extreme and so limiting is like the first time in my life that I've been living a very free life. So for me, removing the plants and having an extreme diet is what actually gave me my life back, and now I'm living a very free life.
One thing I wanted to contribute to the conversation that we didn't get to cover, we talked a lot about nutrients. We didn't get to have a discussion about anti-nutrients. In all vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, there is the presence of anti-nutrients. And so when we say that plants made us sick, it was the presence of those that actually impacted our bodies negatively. Things like oxalates, lectins, phytic acid, there's even certain carcinogens in these plants. And our systems can handle them. And there are a lot of people out there that are experiencing symptoms that are related specifically to these plant micronutrients. I personally see a lot of patients in practice who develop IBS, IBD, in addition to joint pain. I sometimes even see people develop cognitive impairments, issues with their vision, number of different things because specifically of those anti-nutrients in plants. And really the only way to not consume those is to not consume plants.
Well, I think that we are drowning in a sea of carbohydrates in our country. And if people on both sides would limit their carbohydrates, they would do much, much better, because that really puts a taxing load on the body. When you eat a meat-based diet, now carnivore is part of the keto diet, which everyone's heard about, which integrates some fruits and vegetables. So there's a wide realm of healthy eating that you can do, but an overload on carbs is very hard in your system. Just think about, what is a carb? It's a sugar. And we are overloading on sugar. That's what I like to say.
One thing I wanted to add, because I'm someone who just cares about the heart of people, and hearing this conversation, it's very enlightening. And I'm thinking about a person who is ill, is a vegan, but is ill and has to become a carnivore or just has to start eating meat. Could they honor that side of them still and not be depressed? Because, I mean, if it was someone like you who feels so strongly, it could shatter you, right? Could they still honor that side of them by not using skincare and makeup and all of that and still feel like, okay, I'm still doing what I can? And on the flip side, somebody who cannot afford to have vegan skincare, vegan makeup, and can only have the bare minimum lotion that they can afford at the store, should they feel awful that that's all they can do?
I think there's always a way, like the anti-nutrients, phytic acid, we soak our beans, we soak our seeds, that there's ways, cook them, there's ways of solving all those problems. Skincare, I make my own. I spend less than anyone I know on food and skin, it's like vegetable glycerin, super cheap, and a great moisturizer. There's always a way. There's always a solution so that we don't have to violate our ethics or our heart. And yes, I don't think we should beat ourselves up for choices we need to make. That's the first thing. But I think there's always a way to have compassion, because I feel like the universe wants us to live and wants all beings to live and not violate that. So I don't think health could ever be something where we'd have to violate other beings.
Ultimately, I think minimizing harm is the goal. And we shouldn't be shaming folks that can't do that. But there are options. I just think the stereotype of shaming people and judging people is what divides us and doesn't allow for conversations like these to happen.
Right. So I think it is important that we had this conversation. I'm grateful that we had it. And I hope that, even though it is a privileged conversation to have, because not everyone everywhere in the world can have access to do the things that we're all doing, but it's good to know that a person does have options, and there are different ways to live and be healthy depending on who you are. So I thank you so much for being honest and open. And I thank you at home for listening. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of this conversation. Anything you want to add to it, we would love to hear it. And until next time, bye.
Great job, guys. Give yourselves a round of applause.